When someone is such an artist, they go into the creation very, very selfishly, which is the best way to do it, honestly. You start to ignore the other things, right? They think about the thing that they want to do, and they go completely in that direction. And for art's sake, I think that's a very good thing. For design's sake, and for communication's sake, and for motivation's sake, it's a little different. My edge light is different. It's over here now, and I don't like it. Welcome to Games Over Coffee Consulting. This is where indie developers submit their games and I do my best to give feedback on their game design. My name is Devon. I don't ever say in these videos what my name is. That's my name. My name is Devon, you can see it right there. Today we're talking about Valor Quest. This game was submitted to us by Matt Butcher. This person said that their game is probably not like other games that I've played before. And they are absolutely right. It's a genre that you don't see very often. Valor Quest is mix between a roguelike, a MUD, and a MMO. It's browser-based. There's other games that are like it that I've only now learned of. There's one called Archaea, or something like that. There's one called Written Realms, which is more of a narrative thing. MUDs or MUDs, this is a completely new thing to me. Multi-user dungeons. This is a thing that has been around for quite some time. It's been around since video games were born, basically. Kind of like Zork or Adventure back in the day. It was just that, but with many people all coinciding in one thing. And they were all text-based. A lot of people say that MUDs are kind of the thing that made MMOs, where they evolved from. This game is not exactly an MUD. It is kind of text-based. It's also kind of not. I sent this game to my brother just to see what his take is on it. He works for Wizards of the Coast, and he said that it looks like Zork and Myst had a baby and an RPG raised it. I think that's an apt description. So the first thing I want to talk about is my experience, my personal experience with games like these. I'm not experienced at all with games like these. I am by no means an expert on any kind of RPG type of game. And if you want to know why, I have a video here that explains it. I used to be into MMOs some time ago with World of Warcraft and RuneScape. Take what I say here as just the opinions of this guy. That's all these have ever been, really. I want to talk about motivation. One of my first videos that I made on my main channel had to do with why games seem to not catch on with the masses in the early 80s. I was talking about Cosmos Cosmic Adventure in there, but I also brought up Ultima 1. I brought it up as an example because there were some very, very complex games that were available back then for people to play. Adventure and Ultima were some of those. The reason why I don't think they caught on with the masses so much is because you had to really be into computers in order to understand the whole idea of playing a game on a computer. It's just managing a lot of different things, and it's typing a lot of things. If you're not already in that world, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you. It's the reason why when arcades came about and you have these graphical interfaces that have, pixels and the things that are actually moving and there's objects in front of you, people can see that and see direct feedback on their actions, and they can play the game and they become much more popular. When I log on to Valor Quest, it's immediately apparent that this is a specific type of game made for a specific type of people. This is one of the reasons why I ask people when they submit games to me to describe what kind of player experience that they want, how they see their game from the other person's perspective. When someone is such an artist, they go into the creation very, very selfishly, which is the best way to do it, honestly. You start to ignore the other things, right? They think about the thing that they want to do, and they go completely in that direction. And for art's sake, I think that's a very good thing. For design's sake, and for communication's sake, and for motivation's sake, it's a little different. If your intention is to go ahead and make a game that only you wanted to make, and you have a very specific experience in your mind, and you wanted to make it, and you made it, great. That is perfect. You don't need to do anything else. Whenever a person plays that game, they're playing it for one purpose. You either enjoy that type of gameplay or you don't. Now, in MMOs, it's a bit different. Because MMORPGs have so many different types of things you can do in the game, a lot of those different types of things will attract different types of players. So because you have so many different types of people that play that game, their design has to be a bit different. It has to be a lot more balanced. If we look at Bartle's taxonomy characters, killers, achievers, explorers, and socializers. So for example, the multiplayer part in MUDs or MMOs will often attract the people who socialize with other people. When I look at your game, what I believe is happening is that it's mainly shifting toward killers and achievers, I think. I don't see a whole lot of socializing going on in the game. I don't see a lot of calling for socializing. Of course, I haven't played a ton of this game, so, I'm only, level 5, and I died several times. I don't see a whole lot of reasons to interact with other people. So therefore, if I'm someone who's a socializer, I'm not really going to care that much about playing this game. This might be just because the game is pretty early. I don't know. There was a lot of ways for me to obviously buy things, get money, collect Valor, which I guess are experience points. There was ways to buy slaves, which I haven't done, but I don't know what that is. I imagine that has something to do with battling. When I click on other players' names, it looks like the only way to basically do anything with them is to either chat with them or try to kill them. At least that's what I think. I'm not exactly sure. But that's what I felt that I was being pulled toward, was more of that killer or achiever type of vibe. And not to mention you have a ranking also on your things. I don't know if all MMOs have rankings. It can be based on anything. You can organize the list and whatever. But the idea that you have a ranking means that it appeals to achievers. If you wanted to go more niche, then I think focusing on trying to achieve a certain balance, or instead of achieving a certain balance, maybe you just want to go toward one of those types of players. Maybe you want to go toward the killers or toward the achievers. But the problem with having an imbalance like that in your MMO is that it turns the game into something else entirely, which is fine if that's what you want. Again, you have to understand what it is that you want first. Extra Credits made a really good video about this, I think in 2015 or so, 2014. Check that out if you'd like. Link in the description. So if you're trying to do a more niche kind of thing, that's great. But if you're trying to appeal to more players, this is the other side of things. This is the growth kind of idea that I would have in my mind. So you have your niche audience, or you have your growing audience. The growing audience is the audience that is just everybody, right? You try to appeal to as many people as possible. This is where open communication starts to work its way into the fabric of your game. What I mean by that is when you look at Valor Quest and you look at the UI looks great. But for someone who has never played a game like this, what does any of this mean? Nothing makes sense in here to someone who has never played a game like this. Now, if there were someone who was very familiar with all of this all makes sense, right? When you go to a monster and you see that there's monsters on the side, you understand immediately, oh yeah, I understand that the battle that I'm going to have is going to be some sort of dice roll, some sort of RNG that's mixed in with a bunch of weighted characteristics that are based on my skills and stuff. That person, if they already know all that, fantastic. If they don't, they're going to be completely lost here. And if we look at a game like Written Realms, for example, Written Realms does that very well, where they guide the player into every single little step until you start to understand what it is. RuneScape actually does this really well also. RuneScape has a beginner tutorial that happens, and it basically just tells the player, it gives them like a very small quest, and it tells them, hey, do this first, now do this, now do this. The idea of giving people little pieces of a large amount of stuff so that they feel more like they're part of the game is what they're doing here. And I think something like that would work really well for your game also. But I'm speaking as a person who doesn't play these types of games, so I would really appreciate it if there was some sort of tutorial or beginning quest like that in your game. Something that has a goal, just a very, very short-term goal to let the player experience all the little things that your world has to offer, and then just let them roam free. So if you want to grow your audience, if you want to appeal to a lot of people, I would say to openly communicate with them everything you can. I mean everything. What exactly is agility? What does that mean in this context? What's dexterity? When I click on an enemy and battle them, what does that do for me? What am I supposed to do in the game? Should I be talking to others? These are all questions that people who don't play this game would have. And when they come into your browser for the first time, they're just going to run away unless they have those things answered and can build confidence within them. You either go more niche with your audience and you try to discover either a balance or an imbalance that you really want in your game and try to achieve that, or you try to grow your audience more and try to introduce them to the game via a game loop of some sort, like a short tutorial of some sort. That is my advice, and that's my analysis of this game. Thank you so much for submitting this game to me. If you are not this developer and you have a game to submit, click the link in the description or go to gamesover.coffee and you can submit the game there. I have another channel, by the way. This is Games Over Coffee Consulting. I have Games Over Coffee, my regular channel. I talk about game design in there, but I talk about it with a robot. So, there you go.